Today I have the privilege of being with a fine gentleman. He's a specialist in gang and criminologist, Mr. Luciano Bentenuto. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Tell me, what is a specialist in gang?
Well, I've been working in law enforcement for over 25 years, and I've had the opportunity of working in specialized units for the last 12 years where I've had to work with organized crime and criminal groups, including street gangs, especially in the streets. I worked also with federal criminals who were related to street gangs and so forth. So I've had the opportunity to work with them, but more so when I did specialized training at the National Gang Research Institute in Chicago, where I actually went and studied on the gang phenomenon itself. I was also lucky enough to do ride-alongs with the LAPD and the crash units there to go and see firsthand what the gang phenomenon was all about.
Could you tell us what LAPD is exactly?
It's a Los Angeles Police Department, and the crash unit is what's called community resistance to street hoodlums.
I was impressed. I saw some article in the papers from you, like you're internationally known. How did you get to be so well known internationally?
Well, I had a passion into working in this field, and I had the opportunities that were given to me to work at different levels. I worked at with the Organization of American States and worked in several countries where we actually had forums to discuss the gang phenomenon from Central America to the North American phenomenon, and especially in the United States.
I understand you're involved now with a charitable organization by the name of Children Now. Why? Well,
the Children Now is, to me, was probably the best vehicle for me to continue doing what I'm doing after a lengthy stay in the law enforcement community, and a good transition for someone I want to get involved in the community and give back. Children Now is a charitable organization that actually looks at the different options and programs that we could offer to sort of relieve our children from a violent environment. And I wanted to be part of that. And to be part of that, I could bring my expertise, which was the violence done to the children through the gang phenomenon, through the bullying and other forms of taxation, if you wish, at the younger levels.
I understand I was talking to an officer of the law that he was telling me that gangs in North America is increasing 5 to 10% a year. Is it that drastic?
It's a continuous increase, of course, and there's no reason why Canada wouldn't be immune from the phenomenon that's taken over the whole Western Hemisphere, coming from Central America all the way up to North America. So we have to be expecting that kind of a flow. But we could also, we're lucky because here in Canada we're ahead of the game. And I think that if we do things right, we could probably address the situation before it deteriorates like in some other countries.
What would you answer to some people that come from a different city, like in the outskirts, and they say, well, we haven't been touched by a gang. Should they wait till they're touched before they move?
I've always been a staunch promoter of prevention. When you deal with gangs, there's 3 different phases, and there's the prevention mode, the intervention mode, and the repression mode. When you're at the repression mode, that's because the other 2 didn't work. I would definitely put more emphasis on doing much more prevention so that we don't have to spend so much money and resources trying to do the repression and the intervention on the youths.
We probably could save millions, if not billions, in North America.
Well, I think
we're investing in prevention and education.
Well, more than that, Mr. Dudoni, we'd probably be saving lives.
Absolutely. That's a very good point, as a matter of fact. How are you approached to join gangs? What do they do to make, they create like some type of a live bite for bait? I mean, sorry, to get them involved?
Most of the times, depending on the gang structures, there's various gang structures. There's the more organized crime that have structures like the bikers, the outlaw motorcycle gangs, or what we call the cartels. But then there's the street gangs, or self-structured organizations, and the membership there is fluid. It changes according to strength and also intimidation and violence. But to get into the gang is not as as hard as getting into a more structured organization. As a matter of fact, it's less, it's more subtle, if you wish, okay? And what happens is you could tell that they'll start off with the smallest things. Example, they'll start off by offering you free cigarettes, which when you're a young kid and impressionable, sometimes just because you want to belong in a group, you do just that. You'll start smoking with them. Then you can't afford the cigarettes. And then, of course, they'll still give them to you free until you need the cigarette. And then it goes on to the next level, drugs, and so forth and so forth. And then once they got you hooked on their commodities, what happens is then they have to make you pay for that, and you can't pay for that. And that's when the financial aspect happens, and you get involved to do other things to get the monies to get your illicit cigarettes or drugs.
But Mr. Bentenuto, why would a young teenager or adolescent or a kid want to join a gang?
That's a great question. And the thing is, there's no one answer, but I can tell you there's a concept that I've been looking at for the last 25 years and more. The sense of belonging. You have to understand, there was a time when parents had a lot of children, and the home was the environment and in which that we would watch our kids flourish. Today, children have a lot of parents, and the home is not necessarily the same home every day, not necessarily the same home every week. And that reality has changed the way our children are trying to deal with and cope with society's obstacles. And that's why when I started working in this area, one of the things I tried to look at was trying to develop a collective family. Because whether we like it or not, the reality is our family nucleus doesn't exist like it used to exist. And that nucleus that used to be the strength and the good base for values and discipline and also structure is not there anymore. So we have to sort of recreate this one. And what we're doing now is to, and what I encourage, is to have a multidisciplinary approach. When I'm talking about multidisciplinary approach, what I'm talking about is to have the youngster surrounded by friends, family, people that are professionals such as teachers, police officers, everybody in the community that could contribute in some positive way to be a role model for the children. That's what has to exist right now.
So what you're saying is if a child belongs to something, the odds are, and he has an attentive ear listening to him, and that he feels wanted, the odds are he's going to stay on the right route.
And this might sound actually as corny as it sounds, but the kids, all they want to do is be loved and be taken care of and be part of an environment where they feel they belong and that there's somebody that wants them there, and not that just someone that's stuck with them there. And I think that we're in a society right now that goes so fast that sometimes we forget to go back to that. And that's why I think when we do initiatives like we're doing here at Children Now, is we're trying to recreate that spark that makes the families get involved. And the theme of our campaign, which is Say No to Gangs, is it's everybody's business. And when I say that, I mean that. Everybody has to get involved. Everybody has to be committed in making a difference.
You know, I've heard often that they say kids will go in gangs to make money. Is it really the major reason, or because we always seem to talk about financial poverty? What about the psychological poverty?
Well, see, the thing about money, obviously money is what makes the gang flourish, but it doesn't make the individual in the gang flourish. And after working over 25 years in law enforcement, and throughout Canada and actually throughout North America, my observation is it doesn't matter what your financial status. I've seen people from the
kind of level.
I've seen individuals coming from any walk of life, and whether you're a doctor's child, a teacher's child, or just someone that's a construction worker child, it doesn't matter. That's not what triggers them into the cycle of commitment into a gang life. What triggers them is not being able to be heard, not being able to be taken care of, because we keep telling our kids that they're old enough to do things, and we keep forgetting that they're still kids. And now the reality is recruitment starts at ages between 8 and 12 years old when they start approaching these kids. Well, 8 and 12 years old, I don't know too many kids that could actually take care of themselves by themselves, and that you would allow to take care of themselves at that age. So there has to be a responsibility, a collective responsibility, to contribute to their well-being.
So what you're saying is if a child is well loved, cared for, and involved maybe in sports or literature or music, the odds are that kid will do well in life.
We have to keep the kids involved psychologically, physically, and committed into a structure that has some kind of discipline, that has some kind of compass that allows the child to always find its way home safely.
But could the school environment also have something to do with it sometime when a kid joins gangs? Maybe because he's scared of gangs that already exist or whatnot? Well,
you know, people tell me, are schools pools of gang-infested arenas? No, what I tell them is schools are probably where your kids spend 1/3 of your time. Well, if the other third is spent at home sleeping and eating with the family, there's only one more third where you'll be on the loose. And the thing is, there's, that's 33% of the time he'll be in that environment. So we have to make sure that environment doesn't get infested by the gang phenomena. So that's why I think by also working on that level with the school commissions and the school boards and so forth, what happens is we're allowed to at least bring down the possibility of being infected by the gang phenomena to the last 33%, which then organizations like ours, Children Now, who are working at trying to developing programs outside the school, or working at developing programs outside of the school grid of a timetable. Well, we're going to reduce that even more. Opportunity it's all about opportunity, and that's what we need to talk about.
It seems to me like every time we talk about doing something to prevent problems of gangs with schools or whatnot, the first thing that comes in the minds of the people is police. Police should go in school to do prevention. Are they really the appropriate people to sensitize our kids about gangs and prevention?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I've been in law enforcement for 25 years and more. And to be honest with you, police officers and law enforcement officers play a critical role. There's no doubt about that. But to lay all the responsibility and the accountability to law enforcement agencies to do all the work that is caused by a social problem, to me, it's always been something I never understood. I think that the punctual interventions made by police in schools is something that is needed. Is it something that is going to give you the solution? No, it's part of the solution, but it's not the solution. The solution is everybody has got to be committed to making the environment your child is growing up into a good environment. And for me, again, it goes back with the slogan that we've been using at our campaign to say no to gangs, which is it's everybody's business. And you cannot, and I personally, in my opinion, is you cannot expect the police and law enforcement officials and agencies to take the whole burden of resolving a social issue such as the gang phenomenon.
I see that there's a good book out there called Youth and Street Gang, and as a matter of fact, over and above that, there's a pedagogical book for teachers and parents. What would you say on that?
Well, when we develop those tools, like I said, we're trying to complement what's already out there. There's a lot of police agencies and cities and communities that are already doing a lot of stuff to initiate work with the schools and work with the kids. What we did is we developed a tool through Children Now to give to students and teachers and parents. And the study guide is mostly for the parents and the teachers to explain to them how to introduce the modules that we've developed inside the book. And inside the book, well, basically we're touching the various aspects of the phenomenon they're going to encounter at a very young age.
Is that a problem that should be, let's say, we talk about it at the beginning of the school and we leave it there for the rest of the year, or it's a subject that we should keep coming back maybe every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks? The teacher maybe should come back on a different frame to sensitize kids on different dilemmas that are related to gangs.
If we do it right, it should be something that should be present almost constantly But not only in class, it shouldn't be the overwhelming topic. What it should be part of the day-to-day operations, where whether it's the teacher that talks about it, whether it's the parents that talk about it, whether it's your colleagues at school, the mentoring you get from more senior students, because that's another avenue a lot of people haven't used, which is to actually have within the schools a mentoring program by older students who are not involved in gangs, and have those individuals act as the voice of reason in between teachers and parents and other individuals such as police officers and so forth.
You know, you were talking about it should be multidisciplinary, the people involved in there. Everybody should be involved. How do you see the corporation involved in that, and even the individual involved in the Say No to Gang?
I've always believed that there are lots of corporate citizens out there. There are not only out there to make money, but they're actually responsible corporate citizens. And not only should we make them accountable, but they should be responsible enough to engage themselves in the communities they serve. For the simple reason that when you contribute in helping out these kids evolve in a positive nature, these are the same individuals who are going to patron your company for future business. And not only that, you're a corporate citizen, you're part of building the well-being of the whole community. And I have a strong belief that they have a big role to play in that. And we're lucky because here in Canada, we've been able to have great sponsors to help us develop certain programs at local levels. And to be honest with you, it's that partnership between the private sector, the public sector, and individuals, the parents themselves, and schools and other officials that's going to make this thing happen.
Makes a lot of sense, Mr. Bentenuto. On one hand, corporations are investing today, but on the other hand, in the future, a child that succeeds well will need to buy a house someday, maybe a car, furniture. It's good for the economy, so everybody are winners.
Well, it's good for the community, and for me, it's not a question of having more people bring more wealth. It's just having people be wealthy within their own community. Being wealthy for me means having a good, safe, and secure environment to live in.
And I like your point. You say not only would we save millions or billions for our taxpayers and government, but we would be saving lives. What more beautiful than that can we get?
I think it's for me it's not just a question of money. It's really the quality of life, and to give life back to its own citizens, its own people, its own community.
Well, Mr. Bentenuto, I thank you very much. Thank you for being involved with Children Now. Thank you very much for being involved with the community and putting so much energy in order to prevent problems before they occur.
I'm just glad to be part of this organization, and I am very happy to continue to give back to the people that always give me for the last 25 years or more.
Mr. Bentenuto, keep up that good work, and hopefully there'll be a lot more that will do the same thing as you. Have a most wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Di Done. Have a good day.